Yep. I think in a small room, that's still a 7.
Yeah, if we were in a bigger room, that would have been I don't even know.
Yeah.
That's good. It's fine. So Aaron's going to cut the clap, or Kirk's going to cut the clap, and we have to preface because we've had people ask, what are you guys talking about? So to sound check Kirk's claps between the two mics and for an audio check on the file, and Johnny and I rate the claps.
Yes, so that's what's been going on.
But they've been editing the clap out, so it's just me and Johnny like laughing and throwing numbers out there, and everyone has no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah,
now, you know.
Yeah. So.
But okay, so we are in Western Kansas right now.
Oakley, baby.
Oakley, Kansas.
Yeah.
If you are in Northwest Kansas, you need to hit up Mason Sheets. The dude,
Darn straight.
Mason's great. Anyway,
Eric Woodside, a little north.
Woody, yeah. Woody to the north, up by Phillipsburg, Kansas, southwest Nebraska, up in that zone. So, anyway, appreciate the guys we talked to today. That was a lot of fun. We talked agronomy,
awesome.
talked shop, talked how do we make a profit in 2025 and impact soil. And you and I started talking about life in the future.
Yes.
Like, how do we change the trajectory of our family unit moving forward? And so I was talking about land doesn't survive 3 generations is the common quote. And I see it all around me. The first one earns it earns it. I mean, that's what it is. The second one maintains. That basically they inherit it, and then they had a connection to the land.
Mm-hmm.
But and then they give it to their kids who, I mean, dude, I have landowners who their kids have never even seen the farm before. And I've got the opposite. I've got some where the kids have been on it and they love the land, but the ones that have not have the highest likelihood of selling that land at some point because there's an 80-acre tract or, there's $500,000.
Yes.
Choices.
That's
right.
Choices. So,
but we started talking about, steps in life that we're trying to make so that we move our family. It's opportunity captured.
yes.
And we started talking about the Rockefellers.
Yes.
And whether right, wrong, or indifferent, they have created a family network, a system.
A systems approach to retaining wealth.
Yeah.
For multi-generations.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are both finance junkies. And so we start nerding out about it. And, how do we make, dude, money's a weird talk. It's because it has been made weird because, we're going to get our soapbox and I want to talk about grain marketing and we might still, but I wanted to talk about, finance on the farm because we're looking at, there's some on the farm. They're okay. We're going to have a tax bill and heavy tax bill. I hope everyone has a tax bill in 2025.
Profitable.
Yeah.
I was a firm believer that it's okay to pay taxes. Just make sure you're always just doing your share.
Right.
Overpaying taxes is the problem.
Right.
So, and how do you help minimize that? Because there's so many approaches to be more tax efficient.
Absolutely.
So
farmers are generally terrible bookkeepers and worse tax planners.
Yeah.
How many times do we go, well, I'm going to go meet with the tax guy to tell me how the year went.
Yeah.
Man, we got to quit doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We got to quit doing that.
I think about, and I don't mean this rudely, but and how many other business avenues are there that you wouldn't know your books and you could just keep going in that sense, so it's one of those things. If we're talking about longevity and trying to put the next generation in the best situation possible, we either need to find somebody to put on our team that can do that for us, which is fine, 100% great, or you got to start buckling up doing it on your own. Of course, I'm saying that tongue in cheek because I need to talk to myself a little bit too. To be 100% honest.
We're not completely developed by any means. We're just, we both have a very passionate goal on the trajectory of the future of our families financially.
Yes.
And, it's one of those things where money's, I was having this conversation with someone the other day one of my mentors, Greg Cook, he told me, he said, money is a spiritual thing. And I'm like, okay, that's an odd statement. What do you mean? He said, if I take your wallet and I take $100 out and I hand the wallet to you and I walk out that door, what are your feelings toward me? I said, I'm a little pissed.
Yep.
Give me my money back. He says, okay. He says, and that causes you to have a negative feeling towards me or a negative emotion that might lead to a negative interaction. I said, absolutely. He said, that's a spiritual interaction. Okay. He says, if I take your wallet and I put $100 bill in it and I hand it back to you, how do you feel? I said, man, so man, what'd you do that for? Thank you. You know, I appreciate it.
Well, let's be honest. You'd be like, what are you doing? Here, take it back.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I would
you
be.
Need
What
to
are
give
you
me
doing?
$100.
What
What's
are you
this
doing?
for? Yeah, exactly. But the emotion is completely different.
Yeah.
And I mean, generally the first reaction is not the correct reaction so many times in life. And so it's one of those things of how do we become a financial steward of whatever we're doing, of Johnny Ferentz, of Josh Pretzer, of the farm, of business, of the family, whatever it might be. How do we set ourselves up so that we can be profitable and that we can grow and hopefully give to our children something that they can then take and then grow and so on and so forth.
Yes.
I mean, you know, my dad worked his butt off his entire life to grow an operation and then, you know, handed it to me, transitioned, I guess is the right word, transitioned to me and my wife. And now my wife and I, you know, hopefully, prayerfully can grow this business and our operation, not necessarily acres-wise,
Yep.
efficiency-wise,
Yep.
to then hand off to the boys if they want to farm, or daughters, I don't know, whoever is passionate about
Yes.
agriculture and is, you know, showing signs of being a good steward of long-term land management. Anyway, but a lot of, dude, the number one hype or talk right now is how do we make a profit in 2025?
Yep.
You know, we just talked about it with some of the guys, and it's, I don't know. I mean, what's the first thoughts that come to your mind when guys say, I need to save some money in 2025? Well, here, before I say that, one guy told me, he said, I'm shooting for 200 bushel corn, and I'm gonna run my agronomy program accordingly. Okay, how many times have you hit 200? I've never raised 200 bushel corn, was the answer. Okay, man. Well, if you've never raised 200 bushel corn, then who says that what you're doing is going to get you to 200?
Yep.
Because if what you're doing is what's supposed to get you to 200 and you haven't gotten there, I'm sorry, what you're doing is not what's going to get you there. If so, you do it every time.
Yes.
So it's probably the year that is going to get us there. So, you know, number one thing is reality. What are you realistically going to shoot for? And so when you're looking at an operation, you're talking to farmers and growers, I guess from the outside looking in, but having a very good feel for the in. You know, it's not like Johnny meets Josh and Johnny knows nothing about Josh. Hey, how does, you know, Johnny, who has worked with Josh on his operation some, or, you know, fill the name in, knowing about the operation, but not having a stake in the operation. How do you look into 2025 and go, this is how I think we could change things, move things, decrease, increase, or just be more intentional?
I think that's the biggest thing, is being intentional and looking at, you know, research and data where you gain yield without changing costs.
Okay.
You know, so I know we've had this chat multiple times about soybeans. Your neck of the woods, it's not the first thing planted. My neck of the woods, though, gosh dang, it was amazing, the difference between 3 weeks. I mean, 15, 20 bushel difference.
Wow.
In some areas.
If I plant early,
yeah,
I lose yield.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Well, and rabbit hole moment.
Yep.
At the end of the day, us as farmers, our goal is to produce sugar with plants. Okay. How that happens is sunlight.
Okay.
So in my neck of the woods, the amount of sunlight change that happens compared to Josh Pretzer Farms is actually more significant than further down south. Oh, heck, even when I came down there to do the drone demo, I remember saying, how do you guys get stuff done? The sun ain't up until 6:15,
Right.
you know, because up in my neck of the woods, I mean, there's times I'm leaving the house at 5:20 and sun's coming up, so going back to the main point is our job's harvesting sunlight. So when it comes to like soybeans, heck, even corn, you know, the earlier planted stuff has more opportunity to take sunlight and generate sugars.
Okay.
I know this is going a little agronomic, and we've been talking financial.
I was going to say, can you talk a little bit about the correlation of sunlight to plants and sugar? But I mean, because I think there's a lot of us out there that don't realize the exchange that's going on. Talk about that agronomic exchange, that cycle that's happening.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, a plant's job is to take the sun's energy, create sugars, then it forms into a produce, which is its reproduction or seeds, right? So how I picture it is summer solstice happens end of June. Okay, June 20th. So if you go a month before that, that's April. If you go 2 months before it, it's May, then it goes to April. Okay, so if you planted April 20th, you have 2 months of sunlight increasing the whole time.
Okay.
Getting more and more and more. Go on the other side of that, you go 2 months, you're looking at the end of August. Okay. In my neck of the woods, okay, that's the crop's trying to finish up, all that jazz. If you planted early, okay, let's just say you move that a month, that means you're still growing a month later, which is September 20th. The amount of sunlight change that happens there at the end of that crop's life is significantly less. So it has less hours to produce yield of sunlight. So if you plant earlier, I'm saying make sure soil conditions are right. Don't get me wrong.
It moves your peak sunlight performance to a different stage in the plant's life.
And it gets more sunlight, period. The more sunlight, the more sugar produced.
Okay.
More sugar produced, usually more yield. So by changing that planting calendar, in my area, it gets significant because of how much time changes from summer solstice to fall solstice.
Solstice.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey guys, Ben and Josh here. We've been doing a blog once a month, kind of help us express out exactly how we work through problems on a monthly basis. And
it's pretty real life. It's dealing with real life problems on the farm. Typically, it's a vent session in short form. So, you want to check it out? Links in the description.
Yeah.
So, and that's something I didn't really start thinking about until this year. Like, why does planting early matter in my neck of the woods or where I'm at? It's just sunlight.
It's just sunlight. It's free.
It's the amount of sunlight. Because, I mean, I think about it. I was like,
generally the most impactful things on a crop don't cost anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like, I had a gentleman. So he planted early. I'm not going to lie. The next 4 days after that was not good conditions. Wet, cold rain. Had bad population come up. But comparing that to somebody that planted 3 weeks later, he still had 10 plus bushel advantage.
Wow.
And he had way less stand out there.
Sure.
So it tells me that there's more to just letting the plant do its thing with making sugar than not.
Yeah.
You know, so going back to things, what can we look at? Like in my area, I'm going to be mean April 1st if people call me saying, like, if they're not ready, if the planter's not even been looked through yet. Like, I'm going to be upset, and I told them that. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to be rude and say it needs to get done. And the reason why is there's opportunity that we're going to lose if that doesn't happen until May 1. There's opportunity costs there. And, gosh, just little things. I mean, little things, being intentional with it, making sure you're covering ground when you need to cover ground, fertilizer efficiencies,
getting out and digging behind your planter.
Yeah.
When you're changing soil types.
Yeah.
Going from a heavy clay to a silty loam. Yep. It's amazing, man.
Seed depth.
Guys just once they set it in one field, they just go. And I mean, it's easy. It's like, it's always, man, you learn so much digging behind a planter.
I don't know why this just popped in my head. I think it's the good Lord telling me to share it.
Okay.
But when I was teaching, if I would have just thought every kid was the same, I would be saying that's not good. Why do we think about that with dirt?
Sure.
Everything's a little different. Now, I'm not saying spend a lot of money to figure out those differences, but on the same token, maybe always check when you change, just to make sure things are still optimal in that situation.
Yeah.
Every time that you're doing something to that field.
So it makes me, because we did a podcast not long ago about nitrogen efficiencies in soils.
Mm-hmm.
Different soil types are going to act differently with different forms of nitrogen.
Yep.
And that would probably be another one. That's one I'm looking at going into 2025 is my heavy river bottoms. I'm going to treat probably a little differently than I am my clay, redder dirt creek ground.
Yep.
Or at least being aware, instead of mass treat things, trying to be more intentional of, I think it's my starting point. So
yeah.
I think it's a great starting point for my operation. No, just learning, okay, and we have this kind of soil. We have two kinds of soils primarily. We got super high mag soils that we need. I'm going to farm, and I'm going to farm intentional based off how those soils function. And thankfully, most of those acres are fairly close to each other. In my creek ground, different functioning soil, not high mag, higher calcium, good. It's good dirt.
Yeah.
But lower, I don't know, little lower OM.
Yeah.
Organic matter levels, things of that nature, but it doesn't fight magnesium. So I'm going to, in my creek dirt, I'm going to take this approach.
Yeah.
I might run this in furrow on the creek ground and this in furrow on the river ground based off of how I know my soils function in different environments. I'm going to move to more fulvic in the planter.
Yeah.
Because generally we do try to get out sooner on corn in my region in eastern Kansas. And a lot of guys, it's funny, I talk to guys in the north and they can't believe I plant corn before beans. They can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then I tell them I try not to plant beans before May 20th, and I try to get done by June 10th.
Okay.
So my birthday is May 24th. That's my favorite day to plant beans. If my wife always asks, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" I want to plant beans.
Perfect.
I want to plant beans. And she's like, "You want to do something with the family?" Well, you can't say no.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, come ride with me in the tractor.
Yep. Because I'm planting beans.
Bring me a burger and fries.
Yep.
And I want to plant beans on my birthday. But Easter Heathman, Joey's grandpa, he always said that the best time to plant beans in eastern Kansas, where we are at, it was rodeo weekend. That was the first weekend in June. He always said, no matter what, that was always the best beans. And we're planting a 4. The shortest season we plant's a 4.2.
Okay.
Our average is a 4.6, and we will plant up to a 4.9. And we'll plant those beans into May, 1st of June, and we'll harvest October 10th, October 20th. Is generally the window that where combines are rolling.
Yep.
And if we can catch a rain September 1st, it will add 25% to our yield. Because, we are trying to delay that pod fill time to once we start to cool a little bit.
Yeah.
But we don't cool fast here because we're far enough south.
Yeah.
That month of September is our fill period. And it's a slower fill period than, dude, I don't know. It's slower than other areas I observe that are planting short season beans in cooler climates. But man, if we can get a rain in 1st of September, that's what we're trying. We're trying to not fill in August. We're trying to push that as far back as possible. Labor Day weekend, it almost always rains. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's fine. But more years than not, it does. And then boom, that's when our real top end is hit.
Gotcha.
And we're not putting on more vegetative growth at that point. The plants are like, we're done growing. We're going to pod fill. And that's when we focus a lot of foliar fertility is that last week of August, first week of September, hopefully getting ready for that last hard push.
Yes.
Running fulvics, kelp, things of that nature to really try to push that that grain production. It's at the time where farmers are burned out. We're tired of sitting in that stupid sprayer. We're tired of going out. I don't have pivots, but I know my pivot buddies are tired of going out to pivots. But that's probably one that I think I had a conversation with a guy. He said, I've got X amount of dollars left in my budget. Where do you think I should spend it? I said, let's wait. Let's just leave that $20 handy right now, because we don't know what we're going to be thrown this year. If we have a late so-and-so, if we have bugs come in late, you're going to need that to run insecticide. If you have if you have a southern rust move in or something else, that's just what we have move in our area, move in sooner than normal where it might impact a crop. Hey, sure glad we had that earmarked for a insurance fund.
Yep.
I don't know. That's been something that really has been beneficial ROI on my operation. You and I talked a lot last year. I was right on the edge. My corn, I'm like, man, there's southern rust here. You're like, dude, you're denting.
Yep.
You're denting. It's okay. How much of the leaf? What leaf? And then, assessing. We get so scared, man. We get so scared by what ag is telling us. Oh my! Every year, dude, in May or 1st of June, southern rust is coming from Oklahoma. It sounds like a Genghis Khan invasion, and we're just and we're like, oh my God, load the plains.
Yeah.
And when in reality, is it here? How have we prepped our plants coming into 2024, 25? Have we set a stage to be ready for things like this? Are we quickly adaptable? Let's not let fear drive decisions.
Yep. Well, and I get to a point too. I'm pretty sure a conversation was, what does your 10-day forecast look like? And I think it was in the middle of the heat spell.
Yeah.
It's just one of those situations like, it's not a very...
warm and windy.
Yeah,
no
warm
rain.
and windy. You know what I mean? I go back to during that same time in my area, I think about pivots, and we're running those every 3 days. And gosh, going back to, if a southern rust does come into a pivot, gosh, we're breeding grounds for a fungus.
Oh yeah.
At least in my neck of the woods.
Damp, higher, more shade.
Yeah. So I started asking, how can we make that more effective or more efficient, or using like a generic quilt or something like that to cover the rust, and I just think, if we're going to get through this year or be as most profitable as possible, it's looking at each area and making sure that dollar is justified.
Okay.
So I can sit here. I mean, a person could do a Trivapro, and if you have a tar spot or you about need a systemic fungicide for that to help solve it. But in my area, we haven't seen it yet. Okay. I mean, honestly, rust is probably our biggest issue, southern rust. Yeah. So, but generic Quilt XL has great ratings on that, or very good ratings.
Yeah.
It gets the job done.
Sure. And generally when rust comes in on wheat or corn, it's generally close to harvest.
Close to the end.
Yeah. And so you're not looking to buy 40 days. You're looking to buy 14.
Yeah.
20. Yeah.
Well, most of your fungicides, some have 21 days, but most of them 14 days is what you're trying to protect there.
It's funny on the fungicide commercials you hear up to.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's talk. Dude, we beat nitrogen management like a dead horse. And you and I had just real talk. I was literally asking you back at Mason's deal. I said, man, I'm having this. I said, do you think I would see a yield drag advantage, whatever? So normally I'm running 50 pounds in my strip till. I'm getting ready to run right now.
Yep.
It's end of December. Do you think I would see a lag if I strip tilled for soil conditioning and streamed my 28 on with humic ahead of the planter 2 weeks? That's what we do on wheat. We stream our wheat, go out and stream our, I was like, do you think if I didn't run it in the strip and I just streamed it on with the sprayer, ahead of the planter, do you think I'd see a yield drag? And you said, I think you'd see a yield drag if you put it in your strip till potentially.
Potentially, yep.
Potentially.
Yep.
And so now my brain has been wrecked, and I texted Heathman. I said, never mind, change it. We're wrong. We're all wrong. Change it all up.
Well, and one thing, after I say stuff, I start thinking about it. No.
Right. Right.
But another thing, too, to remember there, if you're banding something, you are going to gain some efficiencies there. I just get to the point of what is going on within that nitrogen cycle. Okay. If you're applying 28 today or 32 today, what are the odds that you're still going to have the ammonium and urea form? Now, you're using humic to help, but like I talked about earlier, a lot of things when you do a lot of research on humics, I don't care if it's ours or another company's or whoever's.
We're 120 days from planting.
120 days for planting, but I get to the 20%. I mean, a lot of research studies you can pull up on Google Scholar talk a lot about 20 to 30%, 20 to 30%.
Of the ammonia form, or just total?
It just seems like whatever increase we're talking about is 20 to 30%. That's the advantage. Either that's retaining, that's not leaching away, that's less pounds you need, but that's the number that always pops up. Okay. So with that in mind, let's think of humic of keeping it in the right form for another 20 to 30%. Okay.
Gotcha.
120 days until planting. That 20 to 30%.
How many times do we tell ourselves, well, if I'm going across the field, may as well put something down?
Well, and
it's such a farmer thought, though.
I know. I love banding, though, in situations when you are low on P or low on K.
Okay.
They're not going to move. Now, P is a little different because that can get tied up in the soil. I mean, just be aware if you're dealing with alkaline conditions and or very acidic conditions, maybe P needs to be in the spring as well. K can help, but gosh, you can take a soil sample in the fall and then in the spring and not apply anything, and your K levels can go up.
They'll change.
Yeah,
they'll change.
But I do like K in a band. I do like phosphorus in the band because of the efficiency levels. I do think when you're applying these nutrients, though, gosh, a little bit of carbon goes a long way, and it helps keep things in the forms they're supposed to be in. But I'm not going to say it's going to do it forever.
Sure.
That is unrealistic. 20, 30%. It's just a common theme there, which 20, 30% on something that happened in March is a lot different than a 20, 30% of something happening in December.
Yeah. And then you have to factor in the time of loss.
Mm-hmm.
If is it a percent a week? If you started factoring that in, or whatever, just pull that out of my rear. But then how do you? It's like, okay, well, if we do move that closer to planting, obviously less loss.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing, how do we make our nitrogen more efficient? I've cut my nitrogen rates by 30 to 40% over the last 3 years. 3 years to now. I mean, last year we were 150 bushel of corn on 100 pounds of N on a lot of stuff. But we've really been focusing on our soils and soil efficiencies and in timing, application, form of nitrogen. What form are we applying? Because, dude, just Google Scholar. Look up efficiencies in nitrogen.
Yep.
Look at the studies of how much anhydrous gets in, how much liquid, how much urea, all forms of nitrogen. Look how much on studies actually makes it into the plant.
Yep.
It'll make you sick because how much do we put on that doesn't go in? So... so one, we started with learning about our soils and how our soils function.
Yep.
2, what forms of nitrogen should I be applying based off of my soils and my operation? And 3, now that we've worked on those 2 application methods.
Well, I don't think we can forget about logistics, though.
And logistics, absolutely.
Because, some of my guys, operating 1,200 acres of irrigated farm ground.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a one person doing all of that,
easy button. We got to have it.
There's some things that you got to have help somewhere, and that's right. Okay.
Sure. It is okay.
You don't have to sit here and say,
you'll nitpick your life away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, we still got to be humans.
You do. Yeah. You need to enjoy life. You may gain yield, but you might lose your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
But, and then scaling, obviously. Mm-hmm. Okay, what makes the most sense in my operation? I can stream a lot of nitrogen a lot faster than I can, do other things. And I can, I've had my co-op run urea before. My co-op's great. They do a great job. I have great relationship with the guys over there. But I mean, the fact of the matter is I own my own sprayer, because if Josh Pretzer on a Friday afternoon at 4:00 goes, I'd like to stream 250 acres of wheat, or, tomorrow.
Yep.
If I call the co-op, it's unrealistic. It's unfair for me to expect that of them.
Oh, yeah.
So, but if I don't have anything to schedule, okay, I think I can run 250 acres, get a start tonight, and knock the rest out tomorrow. That it's okay. What fits in my operation, to where it's not killing me. So back to efficiency, and then okay, learning my soils, then learning what relates best in my soils to my crop function, what form of nitrogen on my corn and wheat, and then how can I make that more efficient? And that's just working with the carbons.
Yeah.
Introducing carbon into the system, whether it's humics or your fulvics, of that, either one, whichever application you're going for. In the stabilization, we go humics, we go biological boost, we go fulvics. But yeah, and so that's the story of my farm anyway, of trying to really hone in on ROI and making things pencil better and more efficiently. But and then I learned so much from you. It's like, hey, if your FOS levels are here, we don't need to put a ton of FOS down, especially in low grain markets.
Yeah.
It's not that, ROI is a lot more fun than, bushels, at least in my operation. If I can make an ROI that sustains my farm, I am finding when you're young, bushels are king. We just want,
it's fun.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's fun.
That yield monitor. But at the end of the day, you have to go home and you have to pencil it out. Yeah. And if there is a 0 at the bottom of what's left, sorry, man, you ain't going to have a yield monitor to look at anymore. So,
all right, guys, just want to take a quick second and say, if you haven't checked out our website, go ahead and do so. On there, we have the newsletter, merch, distributor list,
product list,
blogs, links to blogs, links to podcasts. It's all on there. Yes, I did write it on my hand, so I remembered all of it. Anyway, it's there. Links in the description. Check it out.
That's efficiencies on nitrogen on my operation. That's, but that's how I've learned. That's on my farm. How did we get here? Raise efficiency for what we're already doing. Change some practices that were scalable. Learning about what's most effective in furrow. I'm running a little FOS, sugar, fulvic, and a couple other things. And man, I'm seeing great response. We're just kickstarting systems.
Yeah.
We're not replacing a system. It's called starter, not finisher.
Well, yeah. And I get to the part too, I think one of the biggest things when it comes to starters or in furrow and or seed treatments, that is the one moment you can make the most difference with the least amount of money comparatively.
Okay. Elaborate on that just a
little
bit.
So I go back to setting the foundation, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say your soil is low in zinc.
Yep.
Okay. Instead of trying to foliar feed it V6, you will get a bigger bang of having that in furrow.
Okay.
If you have problems, do it in furrow.
Okay.
If there is a solution.
So like the 107 that you foliar ran, that should have a zinc in furrow.
Yes.
Perfect example.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, did we try to supplement? Yeah, we tried, but the most efficient way,
right?
The best ROI cost effectiveness is in the furrow and or on the seed.
Yep. And if you don't have an in-furrow system, then go to the next most efficient method.
Yep.
It's, it doesn't mean, okay, well, I need to go spend $15,000 on an in-furrow system. It doesn't mean that. Are you going to make $15,000 this year by putting zinc in furrow? I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not.
Don't. That's making a poor fiduciary.
Yep.
I learned that in my director development training.
There you go.
I am
Yep.
completely developed now. I have a certificate to prove it.
Congratulations.
Went to
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've been working on my professional development certifications and learning a lot, dude. That's total squirrel here, but yeah.
Well, I'm going back to.
I got to see Austin there.
Oh,
Austin
nice.
Schweitzer.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, the cover king. I've just given him that name. We know so many guys that are doing amazing things with cover crops. Vance, McCoy,
Yep.
Austin, lots of, I've got names flying into my head, but I know Austin, and, I bought my melted, or I bought, what did I get from him? I got something last year from him. I went down and picked it up, and just that conversation the other day, dude, it energized me about farming.
Yep.
It's like, dude, it's so cool to get around someone who's very passionate about what they're doing and know there's a difference.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, I made a difference and I can help other people make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's the difference I want to make in 25.
Well, and kind of coming back to the point that started this whole conversation, make sure you guys, you have people on your team you can talk to.
Yeah.
Like one of the common things is like, who's your favorite seed corn company? They asked me as an independent agronomist. And I said, the person that gives you best service. Because at the end of the day, it's about those factors, having that team, the people that you can talk to swap those ideas on, because even driving down the road, I had an 1.5-hour conversation with one of my clients. We were just chatting to chat, but of course we go down the agronomy realm, and he's a sharp dude. He knows a lot about what's going on. It's just shooting it off to me just to say, does this sound right?
Sure.
Yeah,
it's a
it sounds
sounding
right.
board.
Yeah.
A good team is a good sounding board. Yeah. They may not tell you what you're saying is wrong. They may only validate you.
Yep.
But if you have a good team network around you, they will voice concern if they do hear it.
Yep.
It's like, hey, I'm gonna front load all my nitrogen. Say if Heathman came to me and he's like, hey, I'm just gonna dry spread all my in front of the planter. Be like,
I'm gonna do it in the fall.
Yeah, or just do it in the fall. I'm gonna throw them in out in the fall. I'll be like, whoa, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
And I'm just pulling that. He wouldn't do that, but it's having that network around you. I think a network is probably going to be a greater ROI to you than anything else.
Yeah.
Because they're going to help you see holes in your operation, see opportunities. There might be a cover crop program available you didn't know about that you could make $30 an acre on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Hey, you know what? That would pay for my in-furrow system on my corn. Or, I don't know. I'm just pulling things out.
Just be open-minded, number one. And then also, if it's something that the financial aspect of or running the farm is not your forte, or you're not the strongest at, find somebody you trusted that's good with numbers and talk to them.
Yeah.
Have a legit conversation. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a farm manager.
Right.
But I do like numbers and I like business.
Sure.
I do.
Sure.
So that conversation we had earlier, we were talking about business decisions. And I said, well, what does this do to our cash flow?
Yeah.
What does it do to our income statement? So on and so forth. And it turned out that the answer was no. But on the same token, it's just like, find that person you can trust to run these numbers by and talk about it.
Sure.
Get the pencil sharpened. Now more times than ever, even talking to Gibbs, he was telling me his plan, El Presidente. We were talking about plans, and he's just like, where's the area we could help manage, and I'm not going to lie. He sent me the balance sheet. I was like, or not balance sheet, the break even. I said, there was parts I was just like, I don't know. But then he filled me in that he was doing a bunch of manure on this field. I was like, well, then for sure take out phosphorus. If you're doing manure, there's those little things that having a team will help you find those areas to help conserve money is what I get to. In pivot country, you got to have good sprinklers, don't get me wrong. And I'm a drone sprayer saying this, so I got to be careful. But to be completely honest, paying me, $10 to $12 to apply versus running it over a pivot, I mean, do you lose some efficacy? Probably.
But do you
Is it
still
enough?
gain an ROI?
Is it enough?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I know some guys. I mean, if you're
Or
pushing
hire a
yield,
drone guy to do the stuff
Yeah.
farthest away from home.
yeah. I mean, just think outside the box, and it doesn't have to be like getting rid of your rotation. It's just how can I make things a little different to be more efficient?
Yeah.
And gosh, that's why I love my job. You know, I get to have those conversations with guys, and I feel like with I guess most of my guys, we can have that conversation, and they know that I keep my mouth shut. You know, like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go let everybody know. It's just like I want to help people. And
My thing is big deer. People, dude, I know about more 200-inch whitetails across the Midwest. I know there's people that know about more.
Yeah.
And that sounds. I am very privileged to know some incredible people in the hunting industry, and they'll send me, you know, hey, I'm after this buck, or I got this. And I don't know. It's kind of the same thing. It's you know, or whatever it might be, whatever. Yeah, it's the network is so valuable, and that's what we started. Singular is just a network.
Yeah.
And people ask me, they're like, "What's your logo represent?" And for those that are, can see it, my hat, whatever. By the way, this would be a great opportunity to tell y'all that this merch is available on the website. Kirk's like, "Oh my gosh, my man."
Yeah.
But no, the gear. So how much time do we have? We about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Perfect.
All right.
I can close it in that. So the gear represents, it's a gear. So on a bicycle, if you're riding a bike and you're going up a hill and you have a small gear with a couple of teeth, you're going to, have to push so hard to get that bike up a hill. So hard. But if the higher the tooth count on the sprocket, the more efficient you're going to turn that going up the hill. And so every farmer is a tooth on the sprocket. And if everyone works together, this whole gear moves forward more efficiently. Ben talks to someone about irrigation. Hey man, I saw this and this really helped me with my water. Johnny, he worked with someone on manure, composting, and I saw, hey, when we did this, we got a boost of this. Things knowledge that's out there that doesn't cost a thing, that is just out there to be learned. If you are my wife's grandpa, he passed away a couple weeks ago. And one time she and I, we weren't married yet, but we were struggling in a relationship. And I went to him, I said, man, I'm really struggling with this. And he told me, he said, you have to treat a relationship with an open hand. He said, he said, the person you have a relationship is like a bird in an open hand. If it flies away and it doesn't come back, it was never yours to have. If it comes back, it was yours to have and to take care of. And I mean, just the whole relationship side of farming and agriculture and telling the story of the farm, dude, it's so much more enjoyable to have people to walk a year with you.
Yeah.
I mean, the people I have met, the people you have met through just the networking side, if there wasn't $1 exchanged, the benefit of just knowing awesome people has been, I don't know, it's just fast-tracked. It's just fast-tracked me in personal development and learning. Dude, some of my best friends now I've met through this network. And that's what I feel like I have to tell people is your greatest ROI is going to be your network, because they will give you, a good network will give you the best counsel, unbiased, the least chance of a biased opinion.
Well, it's just crazy, coming into these times. There's still opportunity to be optimistic here.
Oh yeah.
So let's go out there and let's get it, with the same mind as make sure our pencils are sharpened. Let's get that part figured out.
Right.
And
there's less room to be sloppy.
Yes.
Yeah. There's still room. There's still opportunity for profit. Not as much.
Yeah, but there's still opportunity.
But there's still opportunity for profit. And dude, hopefully we can learn when times are good. That's when we got a few extra dollars to play with, to learn with, the trial, so that when times get bad, because they will, we can take those things we learned and we can be most intentional on our operation to help us through those times to get to better times.
Yeah.
So
intention. I think that's the number one answer to the generalization of the podcast, right?
Yes.
Intention
Ask
with
why
relationship
to everything you're doing.
Agronomics, logistically, everything. Yep. Intention. Make sure that every hour spent, every dollar spent is spent correctly.
If you're saying this is the way we've always done it, question that heavily going into 2025.
Or what is your gut telling you?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times your gut is guiding you somewhere.
Yep.
Listen to it. Maybe you don't know why it's doing that.
Yep.
But start asking it.
Yep.
I like it.
Perfect. All right, Kurt. I think that's it. We got go to the website. Like I said, if you want a singular hoodie, which are insanely comfortable, or hats or whatnot, they're on the website with the newsletter, the blog, podcasts are on all the major platforms. YouTube, we're putting a lot of great agronomic info that Johnny is key on helping that on YouTube. Larmu just put out a great,
awesome
just a
video.
Quick little
Awesome.
4 points on how do we implement humics most efficiently in our soils, as they're running that on their operation. Just lots of cool stuff coming. We're working on some really fun projects. That's all I'm allowed to say. And anyway, stay tuned.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
2025
everyone.
is going to be great.
It'd be awesome.
See y'all.
Guys, thanks for watching the content so far. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all the full-length podcasts, other video information, tutorials on there. Also on all the major podcast platforms and social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. So if you like this, go ahead and check more out on all those platforms.